It's a bad time.
What the heck's going on?
Ma, Mr. Doback, we think it would be very prudent.
Can we turn our beds into bunk beds?
Yes.
Why are you guys so sweaty?
What is up? Welcome into Adjust the Ranks, part of the double FU, the FU times 2, the fantasy football universe. I am going to try and get my speaker here sorted. We will see. And there, that should be all set for you. So today we are looking into a Superflex full PPR mock draft for your viewing pleasure. Also to join in, so please feel free to go ahead and join the Discord, which is in the chat, to join the mock draft, which is available here as well. Unfortunately, because of YouTube, you need to copy and paste these things, but feel free to do that. We're not even set up with the lighting in here. I don't know what we're doing today. We got it good enough. Okay, so a couple of things here before we begin. Yesterday, you heard the Quinshon Judkins news. Of course, he's a supreme value in drafts. We're going to especially pay attention to where he goes today. We've also had the James Cook signing. I believe that was 2 days ago or either early yesterday. Either way, that's also affecting his ADP here. But of course, we're talking Superflex, so we're talking quarterbacks as much as possible. There's no tight end premium here, so that's one thing to consider after all. And of course, we are here mocking 30 mocks in 30 days at the Just the Ranks and double FU. So we're here in these mock draft streets at all times, and we are almost ready to go with a mock draft that's about halfway full. We'll fill it here in about 2 minutes, but as we do, a couple of orders of business first. Like I mentioned, the Fantasy Football Universe Discord is rolling. It's live. We've got myself, SC Romero, Jesse Moeller, Dynasty Dogs Rich and Mike. We've got Spencer Buckley, Ryan Prosick, who's on the show yesterday, kind of giving all of their knowledge, and of course, a bunch of other guys in the industry who and friends of ours who are just kind of asking start sit advice as the season approaches. Trade options, dynasty, redraft, Debbie, we're all in those streets, all of us here. So please do feel free to join that. That's always going to be in the YouTube description and also in the YouTube chat. And if you haven't tried Fast Draft, please use our promo code FFU for 100% off your first time deposit match up to $25. Hopefully you are trying that and getting a free $25 as you do. Okay, so we're set up for a Superflex mock here. So let's take a look as we're nearly full. It's going to be another couple of guys joining in, and then we will fire this up. But of course, you see Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson at the top. Jamar Chase ahead of Jaden Daniels. That's interesting, but of course, we are redraft. So that's kind of the reason for that. In Dynasty, of course, that doesn't fly. Jaden Daniels is my 101. In Dynasty, in redraft, I get it. You could see him push down to the 105, 106. I really think he belongs at worst 103. Jaden Daniels is going to have a phenomenal career, it looks like. Potential for sophomore slump, we'll see. That's kind of baked into that number 4 overall cost. But really, I don't think with with Deebo Samuel, that addition, with Zach Ertz still there, Ben Sinnott 1 year in, and potentially and hopefully Terry McLaurin kind of being added into the fold here before the season begins. That really is the hope. Of course, if McLaurin goes, this offense takes a massive hit. I'm not sure where they're going to kind of supplement his production from. It's certainly not going to just be Deebo. And they got a lot of other young guys, guys like De'Ami Brown, who left for Jacksonville this offseason, is a little concerning because he would have been a fairly decent replacement. Now you have, as I make myself a little bit bigger, now you have simply Jalen Lane going to step in there. Noah Brown, who is coming off of injury. So we'll see. We are almost full up. We've got one more spot here and hoping that someone will take the number 1, just about to do it. So yeah, once again, and let me edit this. We'll go Superflex PPR redraft. All right, and we'll put that in the bottom of the screen just so everybody knows what we're doing as we fire this thing up. Yeah, we mentioned the issues about the running backs, both Judkins and Cook. That's kind of old news at this point. Something interesting I heard as we'll fire this up and we'll see how it goes. But something interesting that I've heard from Evan Silva. This was on JJ Zacharyason's podcast. As we fired up, and I have to remember to turn off my sound. There we go. Certainly, that's the issue. Is we're talking about Najee Harris. And Najee Harris, the concern is his eye. Remember, it was July 4th when that happened, so over 5 weeks ago when he sustained the eye injury. Evan Silva said something very interesting on JJ's recent pod, which I believe dropped this morning. And on the pod, Silva said he has an optometrist friend, so take this for what it's worth to you. But his optometrist friend said something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing here from Silva on the pod, but something along the lines of the fact that eye injuries heal in about 3 days. So the fact that it's still 5 weeks and that, the Chargers and team doctors and Najee's people, Najee himself, whoever else he's seeing, are advising him not to take heavy contact, are advising him to not really to do much running. He's had a weighted vest on, but not a ton of action going on there. Evan Silva's optometrist friend did say that he kind of sees this as a potential concern for the health of Najee's eye, and the fact that, he wants to keep the eye long term. Obviously, if Najee Harris is having any sort of concerns about keeping his eye long term, I think his prospects for the immediate 2025 season and, of course, his career are at risk. Najee's had a decent career, of course, not a long one, but he is a running back after all. They usually are not too long for the league, but that's at very least a concern. Right now, Najee Harris has been going in the 11th round. As I'm on the board here, I'm going to go with my guy, Cedi. And so, yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But Amarian Hampton is a supreme value at the moment in Superflex. You can probably get him in the 4th. He's certainly falling to the 3rd round. So that's a consideration for you. Take that for what you feel like it's worth. But an optometrist believe that there's concern for Najee. I'm here at the 2-3. I got Patrick Mahomes. I can't do it. I'm going Brock Bowers. I love me some early tight ends. We are in redraft. CeeDee Lamb, Brock Bowers, very happy with that build. And you can see kind of how this shakes out. It sometimes shakes out this way in dynasty leagues as well, where, obviously you're taking those top quarterbacks, and those top quarterbacks are very clearly defined and almost always go in this order in redraft. You got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You can flip those if you feel so inclined. Most people do not. I do not. Jaden Daniels 3rd, Joe Burrow 4th, and Jalen Hurts 5th. Those are the top 5 for sure in whatever order you want. But after that, there's a huge gulf. It's Patrick Mahomes. Let's see who else is on the board at ADP. It's Bo Nix, it's Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray. So there's a massive gulf here. So the question is, at the back end of the 1st round, are you going to take a shot on QB6, whoever you believes that to be, or are you going to take your shot on position players? Personally, I go with position players, and you can see from 9, 10, 11, and 12, none of us took a QB. And you can see the guys who are picking in the 2nd round, no one is picking quarterback because that value will continue to fall. Now, it's always a risk. You have to play the board and kind of know your league. But I think this is a good play, interestingly, here at the 103, taking his QB6. That's Patrick Mahomes in the case of OG bifocals, OG bifocals, however you want to say it. But Patrick Mahomes at the 210 in a super flex, if he's your QB6, that's a decent value. But of course, he's going to either pick 2 quarterbacks here or fade quarterback, but he had to get one because it's very likely that 9, 10, 11, and 12, which is where I'm picking from, that we're going to take 1, potentially 2 quarterbacks. So he needs to make sure he gets at least 1. We're timing out a little bit, but ADP is going through. You can see Lamar Jackson, Ladd McConkey, and Trey McBride from the 1 slot is a nice start. Josh Allen and Drake London with the potential for Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, AJ Brown, Kyron Williams, if you like it. So that's really interesting as well. But then let's just take a look at the QBs available. Once again, Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams. Of course, you have these guys who everyone's pretty high on. Drake May seems to be the fantasy darling this year. Dak Prescott, we think he's going to throw 40 touchdown passes this year. He's certainly going to throw 500 times. And then you got Love, Fields down here as well. So in a redraft, I really do not mind waiting on these quarterbacks, but I do want to get one reliable guy, and those reliable guys are running out. So I'm going to have to see how the board plays. At the back end of the first, outside of those quarterbacks, we got Jahmyr Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb as wide receiver 3 here, Barkley and Amon-Ra to end the first, then Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Brock Bowers in the second, Genty, Achane, Henry, Neighbors, Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., Mahomes, who we talked about, London, and McConkey. In the third, it's Trey McBride, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Bo Nix, and Kyron Williams, followed by Jonathan Taylor. Now, it is Superflex. It is also full PPR. If you look at the roster requirements, I'll show those to you in a second, right after I take Omarion Hampton over James Cook. That's a really tough one for me. I'm going to go James Cook, actually. We'll see if Hampton comes back, because then, of course, I'm going to have to fade quarterback, which I don't really want to do. Let's see how the board falls. Nobody really I might just play it and see if I can get away with fading quarterback. We'll see what these next few teams do. Quarterback doesn't go off the board. It'll be interesting, especially if Hampton or T is there. Love those guys. Rashee Rice is interesting for sure. But with the suspension looming, potential suspension, we'll talk about him in a minute in that situation. Baker did go off the board. It kind of pushes my hand a little bit. We're going to risk it. It's a bad bet, I think. But we're going to go T. Higgins here, and we'll see what it looks like. So you see the falling value of quarterback Baker Mayfield at the 4-2. If you believe that Baker is able to kind of repeat what he was doing last season and the hyper efficiency that he achieved with Liam Cohen as his offensive coordinator, now the head coach in Jacksonville, with his second year or first full year anyway in Tampa, certainly first year as the presumed starter in Tampa. Baker Mayfield absolutely went off. He also had the highest rushing totals of his career, and I think the highest touchdown efficiency of his career. We expect all of those numbers to regress. That's why I'm not super comfortable taking him. But once again, if you look at who is available at quarterback, it's Herbert, Murray, Caleb, Purdy, May, Goff, and Stroud. I'm happy to wait till the 5th and 6th round. And in fact, I'll probably take 2 guys. I would expect that, let's see, looking at the board and nobody yet having 2 quarterbacks, we're all playing the game of QB chicken here, but I think that people are going to start grabbing their guys here pretty soon. T. Higgins, I did see him on the board, and we're doing things rather quickly and trying to explain. Hampton taken from me, but I do like Ken Walker. Ideally, I would have grabbed him. But here is what the roster looks like at present. We've got James Cook, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, and Brock Bowers. We still need to fill 2 flexes. We need to fill out our second RB slot, which we might wait on for a while because we need to get some of these quarterbacks into the room. And of course, the Superflex and QB position. Short benches, just 3 here, simply because we only do 12 rounds. Easy way to kind of get the mocks in relatively quickly. And you see how it is going here. In the 4th round, we have Omarion Hampton, Baker Mayfield, T. Higgins for myself, Marvin Harrison of the 4-4, Devontae Adams, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Tyreek Hill, Kyler Murray, Rashee Rice, Travion Henderson creeping up the ranks. 4-11 in Superflex is wild. Well done. I love the pick. I don't love the ADP. If he were to fall to me at the 5-11, that is an absolute consideration here, even though I need quarterback. But Travion Henderson, I think, is just in line for the type of volume we like to see for his particular RB profile. And in the perfect setup of Josh McDaniels' offense, Drake May learning to check down, learning the system, certainly in the system that he is learning for the first time, which, as we know, can get a little complicated with what we saw Tom Brady and McDaniels kind of collab on. For over a decade. How long was McDaniels there? Maybe it was 2 decades. I'm not sure exactly, but what I will say to that is it can get complicated, and May is going to have, he's got to learn the option routes that Pop Douglas is going to run. He's got to learn different protections. He's got to figure it all out. The team is going to have some mistakes and some hiccups, and Drake May himself is. But all of that really lends itself to checking down. If Travion Henderson is the guy we think he is, he should be able to hit the ground running, pun intended, I guess, and really be able to make some noise early. Ramondre would be involved. It'll kind of nuke Henderson's upside, but we saw what James White was able to do. Of course, those guys were veterans, White and Brady, when they were doing it. Brady, of course, the best who's ever lived. Far cry from Drake May and Travion Henderson. But yeah, Henderson at the 411, a little too heavy for me. I want Chuba. I want Alvin Kamara over him. After that, mid 5th round, late 5th round, I'll snap up that value all day. Jamie, what is up? Didn't make it in time, sorry to say. Draft settings at the bottom of the board. It's just straight PPR. It is Superflex. That's all we're doing today, keeping it relatively simple. And you can see the rosters here on the board. It's the 2 QBs, of course, 2 flexes, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, the way we like it to keep it balanced so that we can try to, manipulate the draft based on how we want to build our teams. Lots of different options, so to speak. Let's pull this back up as on the board. All right. So these rankings are a bit strange to me. I don't know why Dak Prescott is so low. He's below May. He was below Caleb Williams, who just went off the board. I'm absolutely smashing Dak Prescott there. I love Fields. I like Love, McCarthy, Lawrence, Michael Penix even. Those guys, I want all of those guys. And if we're looking at the board, 1, 2, 3, now 4, just 4 guys have 2 quarterbacks. I think the run has begun, and I may have started it, if not Purdy here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my second quarterback. It is 4 points per passing touchdown. So while I have Dak, he's not necessarily the runner we assume he was in the past. Maybe he's healthier now. I do like Drake May for his upside, so I'm going to go ahead and take May. I really like the Prescott May kind of upside build and redraft. I would have preferred Fields, but I'm okay with that here in Superflex in the 6th round. Give me my second quarterback, and now we should see even more of a quarterback run because it is diminishing. It's Jordan Love, McCarthy, Lawrence, Penix. Then after those 4, you get into the question marks. Cam Ward, Bryce Young, Tua, Matt Stafford, Geno Smith. I like the value on him late, but he may not go very late. He could very well go in the 7th round. So we're going to see what all of these guys are willing to do in terms of pushing their QB2 down the line. So let's take a look at what happened here from the 4th round on. We had Amarian. We went through a lot of these names here in the 4th, but you can see Travion Henderson and Terry McLaurin at the 4-12. McLaurin's an interesting case. Of course, we know he's holding out, hoping for a new contract. The latest news, which as of like a day ago, they're not close. I think it wasn't Dan Quinn, but it was whatever the failed Arizona head coach is, Cliff Kingsbury, who's now the OC in Washington. He was saying that he needs his guys on the field. Many interpreting that to be a plea for Terry McLaurin to come back, maybe a plea to the team for them to sign their best receiving threat in Washington. Terry McLaurin still not practicing for the Commanders, still going at the 4-12. In fact, there's a lot of interesting values here, and I use the word interesting because I don't want to say bad. Be very wary of Terry McLaurin at the 4-12. Of Mike Evans at the 5-4, I'd much rather have his running mate Emeka Egbuka here, and usually you'll see Chris Godwin go before him. We'll see what happens, but if Egbuka falls to the 7-11, that may be a smash for me. Quinshon Judkins still on the board. As we found out, all of the charges were dropped. He will not be charged. Quinshon Judkins needs to go immediately, and he does. Thankfully, right there at the 706, crazy value. Take him in the 6th round, certainly above Joe Mixon. We don't know when Joe Mixon's going to play. We don't know what's wrong with him. I can't draft Joe Mixon where he's going. Certainly not above Connor, not above David Montgomery or Pacheco, and definitely not above Quinshon Judkins. Judkins for me goes, it's a question whether Kamara, Hubbard, or Judkins is the guy to draft. So Judkins should be going 2 rounds earlier than he's currently going. You're talking about Judkins or Pollard, given their situations. Give me Judkins all day, of course, assuming that he will play. You can see who's available to me on the board. I no longer need quarterback, and I no longer need tight end, so I need to fill out everything else. First, we will go DeAndre Swift. I have complete faith in him because, number one, his offense and his offensive mind, head coach Ben Johnson. But of course, number two, the lack of competition in the backfield for him. DeAndre Swift, other than Kyle Monangai, for a 7th-round rookie who apparently is pushing for RB2 reps. Roshan Johnson has proven he's not the guy. Apparently, he's proven it again in camp by all accounts. DeAndre Swift is going to have a ton of touches yet again. I think he was a borderline RB1, high-end RB2 finish last year. Tyler Warren is a consideration here. Absolutely love him and his value. Unfortunately, I already have Brock Bowers, and I'm really kind of just going to push it a little bit more. Calvin Ridley is staring me in the face, and I can't avoid taking him there at the 803. Very happy with that choice, especially because Jameson Williams, one of my favorite values in drafts, went at the 707, and I didn't get a chance to get him at the 710. So here's a look at my roster once again. My starters filled out with the exception of a flex. We got Dak Prescott and Drake May as my quarterbacks. Again, redraft. Full PPR, James Cook and DeAndre Swift. You want those PPR backs. Of course, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Brock Bowers, and Calvin Ridley, who should be peppered with targets in Tennessee. Ricky Pearsall and Roma Dunze, a couple of young, interesting names in year 2. A lot of people expect Ricky Pearsall to really take off. We'll see what happens with the health of everybody in San Francisco, but he certainly has the opportunity to do so. Roma Dunze has the opportunity as well, but DJ Moore is still that dude. He's going a couple rounds ahead of him at the 608 in this particular draft, and I really do like that value, and I do like him ahead of DK Metcalf in drafts. Travis Hunter over DJ Moore, sure. DJ Moore over DK Metcalf for sure. That wide receiver run in the 8th round ended with Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden is an interesting play at ADP. I really like his upside. But of course, it's a question if he's going to see targets. Jaden Reed isn't on the field as much as we want him to be. Tucker Kraft has been a volume guy in the past, but inconsistently so. Matthew Golden, drafted in the 1st round, has the potential to just step right in and really kind of lead the charge here for a young wide receiver core, especially with Christian Watson hurt. So we will see what happens there. After Golden in the 8th, it's Penix, Aaron Jones, Tyler Warren, Jared Jeudy, Cam Ward, and Jordan Addison to finish it out. Of course, we're redraft, and Addison is out for 3 games. That gives me a little bit of pause. At the very end of the 8th, that value is at least interesting to me. Would I prefer this guy who just went? Absolutely. P. Woods crushing this draft. Let's look at P. Woods from the 7. You have a look. I'm not going to read it off because I'm about to pick, but you guys take a look at what P. Woods is doing here, and we'll go over that in a second. You see a lot of wide receiver. You see a lot of blue on the board here in these middle rounds. 3 to 8 is a great spot to get your running back and wide receiver in most drafts. I would avoid tight end. I want them early or late. But obviously you need to get your quarterbacks from somewhere. And as I look at the board and who's available, it was easy. It was an easy thing to kind of spot initially. I'm just checking to see if I want anybody else, and I do not. Travis Etienne is my selection here in the 9th round. Of course, it's Superflex, so values tend to get pushed down about a round and a half. But Travis Etienne is a supreme value, especially in PPR, where he's said to look. He may not be the lead back in terms of rushing touches, but he is, Tank Bigsby does not catch footballs much. I expect him to maybe do a little bit more than he's done in the past, but Travis Etienne is going to be that guy. Whether they line him up at wide receiver, play 2 backs in the backfield, or bring in Etienne on 3rd downs, I think he's absolutely a smash. And then Cam Scatterbo is interesting here. as is Juwan Jennings. I'm a little concerned about that injury. Steph Diggs is the only other guy I'd really consider here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Diggs. He has come out and said that he may not play week 1. He said that's up to the coaches, but he feels ready to go. Of course, New England in Mike Vrabel's first year have designs on the playoffs. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know. I mean, certainly going from one of the worst to one of the best in the AFC in one season is unlikely. But 7 teams make the playoffs now. Drake May in his second year with an improved offensive line, hard not to be improved, but obviously improved all around. The coaching staff is totally revamped and greatly improved. The defense was decent last year. We've added to that as well. So I think the Patriots will certainly make a push. A big part of that is going to be the health of Stephon Diggs down the stretch. He's going to be the one by a mile. Now, we talked about Travion Henderson, love his value at running back, certainly, and he'll see his fair share of targets. But I think Diggs in town kind of gives a tick or two down in terms of the target volume for Hunter Henry. He's someone I don't want anything to do with in drafts this season, simply because I think he's the odd man out. And then, of course, you have Pop Douglas, who is running those Julian Edelman, Wes Welker option routes for days, calling himself self-proclaimed dark chocolate to the white chocolate, those white receivers. But I bring that up to say that's the archetype in the same scheme that we're talking about here. The Wes Welker, the Julian Edelman, that is Pop Douglas this season. So between him, between Travion out of the backfield, I mean, think of Edelman, James White, and you did have Gronk, but Gronk, you never really had that number 1 wide receiver until Randy Moss came to town and Brady threw 50 touchdowns. So I really do think there is an ascension here happening for the Patriots offense. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen right away. I'm on the clock here. I got Kyle Pitts staring me in the face. Love the Kyle Pitts value this year. J.K. Dobbins is also on the board. Trey Benson and Geno Smith. I'm going to smash Geno Smith. He's going to be my quarterback 3, and I'm going to feel very comfortable about that. You see Kyle Pitts go. Really do like that value, especially after Ertz and Ferguson are off the board. Kraft is another one. These guys are my favorite values at tight end, Mark Andrews and Evan Ingram. I think they smash, but happy for Kyle Pitts in the 11th round. Of course, I won't be leaving with him because I already have Brock Bowers. He'll be locked in, and instead, with less than 10 seconds left, I'm going to reach down the board and grab Trey Benson. Trey Benson in the 12th round for me is an absolute smash. It doesn't matter the format. He needs to be going there. You need to get Trey Benson on your team. He's the 1B in this offense. If James Conner goes down, he's, potential RB1. Of course, Arizona needs a lot of things to go right. They need, for number 1, that defense to click. Started to last year. They've added to it again. We have a defensive head coach, Jonathan Gannon, whose name has always failed me. But yeah, Jonathan Gannon, the head coach there, and running that defensive ship as the draft concludes. Arizona should be a team that runs the football and plays good defense. And if they're going to be that team, it's James Conner and Trey Benson. They've made it very clear they want it to be a 2-headed backfield. Trey Benson looked great in his preseason game, and he's been getting all the hype out of camp. James Conner isn't going to go away, but in the 12th round, give me all of that value there. Let's take a look at the team I drafted. First, I've got Dak, Drake May, and Geno Smith as my quarterbacks. James Cook, DeAndre Swift. Who else we got? ETN and Trey Benson, who's down here. You can't see him. Maybe you can. Let's see. I can't see him. You can see him. There you go. Trey Benson in the final round on my bench at running back. We got CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, and Steph Diggs at wide receiver. Absolutely love this team and what I was able to put together. Very, very happy about that. Jamie saying you took Judkins in the 9th of a single QB best ball slow draft, sir. Well done. The Quinshon Judkins value is over, but well done, swooping in and getting it while you could. Steph Diggs is the cheapest wide receiver 1 for a team right now. Hard to argue that. Calvin Ridley is not as cheap. You can see I had to take him, 2 rounds earlier than Steph Diggs. But he's, I think, probably a better wide receiver one simply with everything that we're hearing about Cam Ward out of camp. But, Steph Diggs, Calvin Ridley, almost the same. And yeah, you see he's around, maybe Debo's a wide receiver one, but you see he's hanging around these wide receiver twos. And in some cases, Mims, Burden, Coleman, we'll see Higgins, in some cases, wide receiver threes or at least third targets on the team. We've got Trey Harris being drafted. That may have been an auto draft, but it doesn't appear to be. I can't remember if it was or wasn't, but don't take Trey Harris. Take Keenan Allen instead. I don't think Allen went off the board. In fact, it's a really good time to figure out who was left. Unfortunately, this particular iteration of Sleeper does not show me who was not taken. I have that here on my phone, so I can't show you, but I can tell you that Tank Bigsby remains undrafted. That is a travesty given all the Bigsby hype. We need to be taking Tank Bigsby in 12 rounds of every single draft. If he falls beyond that, you have to smash the draft button, regardless of if you like him or not. That offense is just better than you think it's going to be. Tank Bigsby is going to get the ball more than you think he's going to get it. Anthony Richardson isn't drafted. This is not surprising. At the same time, we're in a super flex. Who would you rather have as a potential QB3? Let's say your team 6 here, you have Brock Purdy and Michael Penix. We have maybe some question marks, right? Purdy, certainly a good quarterback when everything is right, but everybody is injured in terms of pass catchers in San Francisco here in the offseason. So is, outside of George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, of course, out of the backfield. So is, two guys who are historically injury prone. So is Purdy going to have a down season because all of his guys are going to be, not able to retain their health and stay on the field as much as possible? Maybe. So, you have maybe that uncertainty. And then Michael Penix and the uncertainty of, we've only seen him in 3 games, small sample size. He looked great, but what's he going to look like when NFL defenses have tape on him? Check out his tendencies, have a full offseason to prepare. We don't totally know. So with these 2 question marks, I'm not taking a guy like Bryce Young. I understand the safety of a QB3 where he looked great. He was ascending. At the same time, I prefer, give me another question mark, Anthony Richardson. When Richardson plays, you insert him in your lineup. It's as simple as that. So A-Rich really should go to some of these teams. If you have Daniels and Murray, I get it. Maybe you don't take A-Rich, but why not, right? If A-Rich plays, you just replace Murray. And when A-Rich doesn't play, you don't worry about it. You have QB1s up and down the board. In this case is really where I want to take A-Rich. But like I'm saying here, I don't mind taking him in any sort of build, whether you have Jackson or Herbert, whether you're kind of betting on Ward as your QB2. In my particular case, I went with Geno, the safety there. And I really love Geno and his value this season, but that is a story for another day. So you see the way that quarterbacks kind of shook out here in this particular Superflex draft. Let's talk a little bit about the wide receiver values, especially at the end. As I take a breath, Jesus. Let's talk a little bit about the guys who didn't go off the board. Kyle Williams did not go off the board. Christian Kirk did not go off the board. Cedric Tillman did not go off the board. Pop Douglas, love Pop Douglas, did not go off the board. Adam Thielen, Wan'Dale Robinson, Josh Dobbs, DeAndre Hopkins, and of course, buried in the sleeper rankings is Keenan Allen. All of those guys did not go off the board in this particular draft. Of course, you're typically in your redrafts going to have about 3 more rounds. If that's the case, you need to be highlighting some of these wide receivers mentioned here. Personally, you got to get Keenan Allen and you got to get Pop Douglas. Like I said, Pop Douglas is now the Julian Edelman role. Drake May is not Tom Brady, but otherwise the situation is as good as it can be with Josh McDaniels back for both Pop and TreVeyon Henderson, as we mentioned. Christian Kirk is an interesting name to monitor. Of course, everybody is hyping Jaden Higgins. Where did Higgins go here? He went in the 12th. Look, I like the upside of Higgins, but we already have a Nico Collins on the Texans, and it's Nico Collins. So to get a second Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins on the other side, are you going to throw to Nico Collins or Nico Collins light? I think you should just stick with the original, the OG Nico Heavy himself. and get it done there. So I would much prefer the value of what I perceive Christian Kirk to be, especially because he's not off the board yet. And yeah, it appears, according to the beat, this is as of an hour ago, 2 hours ago, he's quote unquote entrenched as the wide receiver 2. He's locking up the wide receiver 2 spot. He is the potential safety blanket for CJ Stroud. You have to prioritize Christian Kirk in the 12th, 13th, 14th round of your drafts. Just grab him along with all of these upside running backs. So let's look at the board and see who's available for wideouts. You got Brandon Ayuk going at the 11-2, currently hurt. Darnell Mooney at the 11-4, currently hurt. Josh Downs at the 10-12, currently hurt. Juwan Jennings at the 10-5, currently hurt. The point is there's a lot of uncertainty with these guys all the way down here, from situation to health. Why not just follow the beat and take a guy like Christian Kirk ahead of most of these guys? Maybe the upside isn't there, but the floor is super nice. And you don't necessarily want a bunch of floor guys. I would prefer a ton of upside on my bench. At the same time, I want a floor guy or two, a Pop Douglas, a Christian Kirk, just to make sure that I can supplement those guys as needed. And certainly if an upside guy presents himself and has the case, those floor guys are guys that I can drop pretty easily as I'm looking to play the wire. So late here doesn't really matter. If you're telling me you want to take, I don't know, a Hollywood Brown or Kyle Williams over Christian Kirk, I get it. But that's particularly just not something that I'm going to do. Generally, I'm also going to take more running backs toward the end of my draft. Jacoby Myers here at the 9-6 is interesting. I'm not taking him over Emeka Egbuka. I love Geno Smith. I think this offense is greatly improved, but it's Brock Bowers or bust for me, really, in this offense. Jacoby Myers, no thank you. Deontay Thornton, no thank you. These are guys who can produce, but Myers is going to be a little inconsistent. They're going to run the crap out of the ball with Genty. Raheem Mostert is in town. He's going to see kind of more looks than you want. And look, I don't think it's going to hurt Genty at all. I just think Mostert is going to be more involved and kind of hurt some of the ancillary pieces. And Jacoby Myers is right on that borderline of an ancillary piece. Is he a good wide receiver? Yes. Is he kind of a forgotten man when all the other studs are on the field? Maybe. But Jacoby Myers for me at the 9-6, I don't mind the value, but give me the upside of Emeka Egbuka there instead at the 9-7. Great value there. And if you look at all the other guys, Jordan Mason, I would prefer over Myers. Njoku, yeah, if I don't have a tight end, I'm usually not smashing that, but why not? Travis Etienne, yes. And then when you get over here, no thank you, I will go with Myers. So I don't think he's far off ADP, but he's at least an interesting case and is the reason why in a lot of cases I'm looking at the running back value. Swift, Caleb Johnson, Travis Etienne, Pollard, Mason, Trey Benson. I love these values here as opposed to a lot of the wide receiver values, even though I was able to hit on Ridley and Diggs. Pearsall here as well, and the 8th is nice. So just play the board and let it fall to you as best you can. We have to talk a little bit about this from Jamie. First of all, starting to go after Dart over A-Rich. Yeah, I mean, Dart has looked good, but let's just keep in mind it's preseason. Preseason gets hyped. We know who Anthony Richardson is if he can keep himself on the field, both via his health and convince his coaches to let him stay on the field, or himself. He needs to make sure that he's not taking himself out of games. We know who he is. He's a top end QB1. That's who he is. Okay. Jaxson Dart, however, on the other hand, listen, I don't mind the Dart play, and in fact, I like Jaxson Dart in Dynasty because I do think he takes over this job. But how many games is he going to play this year? Dart over under the amount of games that A-Rich plays, I don't know. That's kind of a toss-up. Give me the guy who I know can be a high upside QB1 when he plays. That's not Dart. I don't know that. He's got Malik Neighbors and nobody else. Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scatteraboo, fine. But that's not the ideal backfield. Offensive line, yeah, a little better. Defense, fine. Theo Johnson, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton. So A-Rich just is offense himself. So that's why I'll go A-Rich. But Jaxson Dart, I do like, and he obviously is going to go probably, I don't know, obviously, but he'll probably go later than A-Rich. This is the big one I want to talk about, though. Spicy take, Tillman finishing as the highest scoring Browns wide receiver. Jamie, love you. Can't get on board with this particular take simply because Jerry Jeudy is in town. We saw the breakout last year. But I don't know that anybody's worth it in this Browns offense, just given what's going to happen at quarterback. I think we're going to see Joe Flacco. The question is, how many games are we going to see Flacco for? And then who do we see next? Is it a healthy-ish version of Kenny Pickett? Is it Shedeur Sanders, who looked great? No hate on Sanders, but he's a rookie, right? And he's, I guess, as a fifth rounder, considered more developmental than we thought. Who knows? Who knows why he slipped that far? I think there was a confluence of things, but you certainly don't send a message to a guy just because of, look, is there potentially racism involved? I'm not going to blame anybody, but yeah, probably. Is there issues of Deion's father, or Sanders' father, Deion, just being so outspoken? Yeah, probably. There's a lot of those things involved, especially when you think about the good old boys club that the owners are here in the NFL. All of that aside, Sanders still went in the 5th round for whatever reason. That to me factors in somewhat. And, at the very least, he's likely a developmental quarterback. Can he develop quickly? Sure. Did he look good in college? Yeah, even though he regressed his final year. So a lot of interesting things there, but I think it's Flacco for a while, and then I think it's not. And then the question is, who is it? How does that go? Does Flacco stay healthy, or is he taken out due to injury, or simply because he just can't sling it anymore? The guy's 42 years old. So, yeah, Tillman as the highest scoring Browns wide receiver. I hope not, because I hope that's Jerry Jeudy. But it could happen for sure. Recent positive news around Tuten. I don't know. I think Bayshul Tuten was always a guy who was a good pick, right? He's, of course, handpicked by this regime, right? Of course, 4th in fantasy, that's Rocco and Huncho doing their thing over there. Bayshul Tuten for redraft, no. Do I have a fair amount of Bayshul Tuten on my dynasty rosters? I do. He's a grab and stash for me. And I still see him as that. I just don't see him super contributing this year while ETN and Bigsby are healthy. We know what Bigsby can do. We know what ETN can do. We know that their skill sets are diametrically opposed to each other. So the two of them equal a great running back. And if you can kind of get them on the field in the right situations, then great. Bayshul Tuten, for me, there's positive news. Could he overtake Tank Bigsby? Sure. I don't think that's necessarily a difficult thing to do. But with all the hype that we've heard of Bigsby this offseason, whether that was like the coach trying to hype him up or not, I don't think so, because of all the beats and all the people who've gone to camp and what they've said about Bigsby. So, yeah, Tuten, I think, is just going to find it difficult in year one to carve into a significant workload outside of injury. If you want to take him in the 15th round, I guess so, and you can stash him. But, do you want Tuten or do you want Anthony Richardson, who you can get now? Do you want Tuten or do you want, let's take a look at some other running backs. We'll transition. Kareem Hunt, JCM, Bill. Do you want Bill or do you want Tuten? Do you want Miles Sanders, potential RB1? Do you want Woody Marks if Mixon doesn't come back? Or do you want Tuten? So I think Tuten is just, there's a lot of health right now in Jacksonville, and it's hard. And, without the pass catching upside, I really don't want him in what is yet to be proven to be a good offense. I think it's a good offense, but Tuten for me is kind of a bridge too far. It's kind of like the Jalen Wright circumstance last year. 2 healthy running backs in front of him. The offense was doing very well, but we already had kind of an entrenched pass catcher there who is eating in, obviously in Devon Achane, but, comp to Travis Etienne, a guy who's going to get the work in the receiving game. And that's kind of ends up being the guy you want, for better or worse. So, look, if the drumbeat stays steady with Tuten, he'll move up for me. As of right now, I don't want anything to do with him. But let's take a look at some of these other running backs who, and of course, they're not on this board. Damn you, StreamYard. Figure it out. Let's make sure we can cast the sleeper app again. We mentioned a few of them. Will Shipley is interesting. Late. Brashard Smith, not really interested. But Monungai and Taj Brooks, those are two names I'm interested in. And here's a name that nobody is talking about, Raheem Mostert. I don't think the upside is there, but we're all assuming that Genty, just with his massive workload, just keeps on trucking. And Mostert is really the only other guy there who should be reliable. He's old, but in the last round, yeah, maybe. But there's better upside. There's Sean Tucker. There's Isaiah Davis. There's Braylon Allen, of course. I don't think Allen went in this draft. He did not. Damon Pierce is really interesting with the mix and stuff. So, yeah, I'm kind of taking all of those guys. Let's scratch Raheem Mostert from our memories. And all the other guys there, Marshawn Lloyd. There's a lot of other guys I would prefer to take with upside. And, yeah, it's not Tuten for me. We'll see. Miles Sanders will make his preseason debut tomorrow. Let's see how he looks at his advanced age of 28. Certainly running backs last longer than that, but we'll just have to see what's going on. Tuten is the super freak. It's Bayshul, Tuten bitch, whatever you want to say. Absolutely love it. Go make me some pancakes or whatever David Chappelle says when he's playing that character. Let's see. Trone Force, welcome in. Welcome back to the show, Trone Force. Let's see what he has here. Auction draft yesterday. We got to get into an auction mock here at some point. 12-team PPR. We got Jaden Daniels, Tyreek, McLaurin, Barkley, CMC, Okonkwo, DK Metcalf, Travis Hunter, Cup, Warren, Ford, Eckler, and Garendo as a handcuff. Don't love the handcuff, but yeah, who cares? Garendo is a stud if he's healthy. Currently not. We'll see who ends up being the two there. It's going to depend on health, I think. But yeah, can't go wrong with Daniels. Tyreek, depending on the cost, I love the upside play there. McLaurin is a concern, of course, because he's currently not practicing and doesn't have a contract, or at least isn't accepting the contract he does have. Doesn't have a new contract. But DK Metcalf, I think, has a solid floor with a potential ceiling, but more so a floor. Travis Hunter is your ceiling guy. So I really like the way that you kind of supplemented those question marks at the top at wide receiver with kind of the depth that you've added there. Cup is interesting too. We'll see if he has anything left. But at running back, CMC, Barkley, love it. Cup, Warren. I assume that's not Tyler Warren, and I assume it's Jalen Warren, but let me know which Warren that is. Jerome Ford is absolutely an option, but Quinshawn probably back. And then Austin Eckler, I do like as well. So, yeah, if Okonkwo is your only guy, then not a huge fan. If that Warren is Tyler and not Jalen, then I think we got something going here for sure, Trone. So let me know what you got. Love that squad. Let's wrap things up here by just taking one more look at the board, and I'll give you some builds that I absolutely love. We got to start with the 108. Young's Penny here. Jalen Hurts at the top, so you get a top 5 quarterback at the 8. Great. And then you follow it up with Devon Achane. You stack them with A.J. Brown. You get Devontae Adams, George Pickens, Travis Hunter, Pollard Pearsall. So really love that start from Young's Penny. I think he's set up. He pushed it far, so he ends up with Tua instead of a guy like, he could have taken a Jordan Love or Trevor Lawrence or J.J. McCarthy instead of Travis Hunter. But at that point, you are limiting your upside because Hunter really adds to your lineup, I think. Yeah, so I do like it. And Tua has the opportunity to bounce back. That defense is atrocious in Miami. It's going to be the worst in the league. Book it. And because of that, I think that Tua really has a chance to outperform ADP by a lot. So I'm not necessarily making that bet by drafting him on my teams. I don't hate the pick. And with the rest of this team here, especially Jennings and Ertz at the bottom, you've got a really nice lineup. A little light at running back, smash running back in those last few rounds. But love that build there. And then I got to go right next to him for P. Woods. Shouted him out earlier. But let's take a look at the lineup as it finished. Joe Burrow, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor from the 107, Kenneth Walker, Devonta Smith, love. Jameson Williams, the crazy value for me at the 707, Matthew Golden, Egbuka, Charbonnet, Ferguson, Burden. Instead of Burden, I would have probably gone Dobbins. But yeah, the upside of Burden, it's potentially there. I just don't see it too many mouths for me. And DJ Moore is going to get fed. One or both of those tight ends are going to get fed. Roma Dunze is going to get fed. So Burden's the odd man out for me for sure. potentially Loveland as well, but we will see. Love that team. And then finally, I'm going to go with, it's tough between the 2 and the 4 here. I really do like Brandon's team from the 102, but I'm going to focus on B10 from the 104. It starts with Jaden Daniels, so you get a top tier QB. Follow that up with BTJ, Josh Jacobs, Mr. Infinite, Kyler Murray as your QB2, then Evans, Metcalf, Sutton, Tyler Warren, and Jonnu as your tight ends. Jonnu is undervalued, man. With what he did last year, I know he's moving to a new team, but hand-selected and traded to that team to be a part of with his old coach. His old coach also brought in his old QB, so reunited here with Aaron Rodgers as well. I think that Arthur Smith offense is always a little bit better than we expect it to be. They do win games. Do they put up fantasy points for everybody? No. But I think Jonnu has sneaky upside, especially if he's used a ton. We will see what it looks like between him and Pat Freiermuth on the splits. But yeah, give me Jonnu there. Then you got Brian Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Marvin Mims, so upside shots. I do like it, especially those top 8 picks. Evans for me is, I just think he's on the decline. If you were to pick Kamara or Pickens there, I think that team is lethal. But look, maybe Evans has one more year of double-digit touchdowns. Barely got to 1,000 yards. We'll see if he can get there last year. Egbuka and the return of Chris Godwin says no. Yeah, so that is about it. We'll just take a look at the... No, I think that's it. We're going to end it there. This has been Adjust the Ranks, a part of the fantasy football universe. As you can see scrolling on the bottom of the screen, we've completed a Superflex PPR redraft mock draft for you here today. You saw the values. We talked about a lot of it. And really in Superflex, you want to see, the question is, where are you taking your QB1? Where are you drafting, first of all? If you're drafting him in the back half of the first round, you're unlikely to take a quarterback. In those first 2 rounds, we saw it happen from the 9, 10, 11, and 12 spot. Nobody decided to take a quarterback. That tends to be par for the course if you are looking for value. So those top 5 QBs go, usually in the first 8, 9 picks, and then you're kind of left 10, 11, 12, in this case, the 9, just taking the value that's on the board, and it's not quarterback. So that's fine. How far do you push QB1 is the question. And then, of course, how far do you push QB2 is the second question. If you push it all the way down to someone like Geno Smith, someone like Justin Fields, depending on where he goes, someone like, let's look at the board here, like Tua Tagovailoa, who you're talking about, you get value all across the rest of your roster. And that can be very, very, advantageous to you and your situation in your league. But really, it's all about the quarterbacks. And of course, the onesie position in the tight end, the only onesie position. What do? Do you push it all the way down to the Kyle Pitts of the world in the 11th round? I don't. I don't mind taking Kyle Pitts, but I do mind taking Kyle Pitts as my tight end 1. So really, if I'm going to take someone like Kyle Pitts, I still need a top 3 tight end. I need a top 3 tight end this season, regardless. If it doesn't work out where a top 3 guy falls to me, fine. That makes sense. I'm not going to hyper reach. For example, yesterday I was in a draft and I didn't get a top 3 tight end because George Kittle was the only guy left when I was drafting at the 302, 301. And I couldn't justify him that early, even though he could be the tight end 1 yet again this season. So, and it certainly is shaping up with that way with all the injuries in San Francisco. So look, sometimes it doesn't happen. You got to reach a little bit earlier. Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, and Tyler Warren are those guys that I'm reaching for between let's see where they went in this particular draft, in the 9th round in a super flex. Tyler Warren going earlier, the back of the 8th. So yeah, usually in the 7th rounds where you can get those guys in kind of 1 QB. So that's what I'm looking at tight end in general. But that onesie position becomes all that more important because look, if you don't get one of those top 3 guys, okay, but you're shooting your shot and you really need to make sure that you shoot it on a couple of guys because we just don't know what's going to happen outside of those top 3 guys. So this has been Adjust the Ranks, a part of the fantasy football universe, the FFU, the double FU, the FU times 2. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Superflex PPR mock draft. We appreciate you joining us and jumping in. We are doing a series of 30 mocks for 30 days all throughout August. August has 31 days, so you might see 31 mocks here. But that is on a playlist on YouTube. That is on Twitter, linked for you as well. You can watch all of these shows and get all of the information you want. We're going to need to consolidate this info and put out some sort of thread as well, just to give you kind of the best value at ADP based on all of this wealth of experience and ADP knowledge that we're developing here. So figure that out. Let us know what else you need. I think we need to get an auction in here. Trone Force was in here talking about his auction. It was Jalen Warren. So Chigakonkwo for me, Trone Force, as your only tight end is a concern to me. But otherwise, I do like this team. Jamie says, my team in this draft is trash. If you don't play, you can't win. I didn't even notice Jamie in this draft. Jamie, you're not in this draft. What are you talking about? You don't play, you can't win. Jamie's trolling me again. Well done, sir. Good work. Yes, and I also know the winning lotto numbers, Jamie, so I'll shoot those over to you in a DM. I can't be giving out all the info for free. But yeah, enjoy the games. They're good ones. We'll see. All right, so enjoy some football today, tomorrow. We got some games as well. Enjoy yourself. We're going to be back at it tomorrow with a roundtable and a mock draft. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining, Jamie. Thanks for joining everybody else. I am Jeremy, and we will see you next time.
We say bye-bye, so long, see you later, take it easy, be cool, hang in there. You know what my favorite one is? Don't get run over. Well, some people need practical advice, you know?